New Year, same extra value meals at McDonald's. So now get 2 snack wraps, plus fries, and a medium soft drink for just $8.
For limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Hawaii, Alaska, and California, and for delivery.
Why do growing businesses love working in Slack? Let's ask Christy at Ari Bikes.
Running things in Slack saves me so much time.
AI summaries save 97 minutes per week. What say you, Rox from Gosney?
Slack helps us build community, it helps us build connection.
Your partners, vendors, and customers all in one place. Take us on home, Ashley from Caraway.
If we didn't have Slack tomorrow, I would explode.
Well, let's not let that happen. Visit slack.com/podcast to get 50% off Slack Business Plus.
Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, 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 come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I'm Stephen Means. That's Stefan Krajisnik, and that is Andrew Gillis as we continue our yearly end of the year performance reviews, position by position. We did Julian saying and the quarterbacks yesterday. Today, the first half of the pod will be Carlos Lachlan in his running back room, and then the second half of this pod will be James Laurinaitis in the linebacker room. Andrew, starting with the running backs, a bunch of different guys ended up getting a lot of carries. There were 4 different guys with at least 50 carries. Bo Jackson obviously leading the room with 179 carries and 1,090 yards and 6 touchdowns. He joins Travion Henderson, J.K. Dobbins, and Maurice Clarett as like true freshmen in the past 25 years who have had 1,000 yards in their first year as an Ohio State. Running back C.J. Donaldson was second with 96 carries, 361 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He became a touchdown merchant there for a little bit because he was like their short. He started off as their lead back, ended up being kind of their situational short yardage and third down back as the West Virginia transfer. James Peoples, who is now in the portal, 61 carries, 344 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He went from a year ago at this time, we're going, hey, James, Travion and Quinshawn are leaving. You ready to run the room? To 12 months later, he's in the portal because he's been jumped by one freshman at least, and it sounds like another freshman, Isaiah West, who had 59 carries for 310 yards and 2 touchdowns, might be in the process of doing that as well. The other running backs in the room were Sam Williams-Dixon, who played in one game. He had 1 3-yard touchdown, and I think that was in the Grambling State game. And then Turbo Rogers, who did not, I don't think he played any snaps this season. That is the room, as we do, exceeded, met, or fell short of expectations when discussing the Ohio State running back room in 2025.
Turbo, we should mention, was usually out on the availability report as well. So it wasn't just not playing him. It was like not available in most of the games.
2 things can be true. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
yeah. But you are correct. He was on the availability report. Gillis, exceeding, meeting, or fall short?
Yeah, this was an interesting one because I think if you were to say the Ohio State Standard trademark, big block Ohio State Standard, like if you put your like deep voice on and you do that, I think they fell short.
It was the worst deep voice I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, sorry. I was about to cough and I was trying to hold it. I think they fell short. I think if you were to have your standard of what you thought they were going to be in 25, you would say they met it. Just because of the way that the room had kind of shaken out and the way that things were kind of headed up. Like you lose Travion Henderson, you lose Quinshawn Judkins. Like I don't care who you are, that room's not going to be the same, right? It's 2 top 40 running backs. Both of them are really, really good, really, really accomplished running backs that were older. You know, those are 2 great players. Like nobody's looking at Jeremiah Love and Janarian Price leaving Notre Dame being like, well, they better be better next year at running back. No, that's unreasonable. Like that's what happened to Ohio State this year. They lost 2 top 40 NFL running backs. So if the Ohio State standard is you've got NFL guys ready to go, and I think you probably fell short a little bit. I don't think they were bad, but I think the expectation should probably be a little bit higher. But in terms of what you had to deal with, in terms of who you had in the room and like realistic expectations, they were right on par with it. You had a freshman running back who looked really, really good. You had two veterans in CJ Donaldson and James Peoples, who were just kind of role players essentially this season, right? Like Isaiah West popped on late. You got some really, really nice contributions from young guys where, like, I think the arrow is certainly pointed up, and that's something that we're going to talk about down the line. But I wouldn't say that this running back room was necessarily great this year. I think there were moments that were good, and there were moments that you probably wished you had a little bit more. So it's a tricky question. And I think it's one that has two answers.
I think that's an interesting pod to do one day in this changing landscape of college football. Of like, yeah, you lost good players. It's unreasonable, but it's like it hasn't been unreasonable. Ohio State, this is a place that replaced Ezekiel Elliott with Curtis Samuel, with J.K. Dobbins, that replaced Dwayne Haskins with Justin Fields, with C.J. Stroud, with Joey Bosa turned into Nick Bosa, turned into Chase Young. Like the wide receiver room, it's like it can't get any better than Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr. It can't get any better than Marvin Harrison Jr., Jeremiah Smith. It can't get any better than that. We'll see what happens with Chris Henry Jr. here. So it's interesting. That's a pod in itself of like, is that still true? That idea of, so what, you lost a superstar, the guy behind him might be even better. I think that might be something that'd be interesting to get into when we get deeper into the offseason here. But Stefan, exceeding, meeting, or fell short of expectations for the running backs?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with meet or met expectations just in a very roundabout way. Maybe not the way we necessarily predicted it to happen, but you look at some of the stats. I mean, last year you had Quinshon and Travion. This year you had Bo kind of as your lead back, get more rushing yards on fewer attempts and fewer games than either Travion or Quinshon got. Oh, sorry, he had fewer carries than Quinshon, more carries than Travion. But in fewer games and have more yards than Quinshon. And then you kind of take, okay, sure, there wasn't an established number two, but you take between CJ Donaldson and James Peoples, you can combine their carries, or you can take CJ and Isaiah, combine their carries. That totals to about what Travion had. You had fewer yards there. So that's maybe where you fell short a bit. But I thought even if it wasn't James and CJ that necessarily ended up being the guys that we expected it to be, I still think you got from Bo Jackson a clear number one running back and someone you can build around here and someone who established himself by the end of the year. And maybe we can have a discussion about this because, Gillis, you talked about the standard being two guys close to that caliber, NFL type guys that can divide the workload. Is that the standard, or is the standard having enough options to where your guys can be fresh when you get to the postseason? Because I thought Ohio State's running back room was fresh. Now, here's where I think you would push back, is you would say Bo Jackson was banged up this year. I don't think that was a result of workload. Bo Jackson was banged up before he even became like the featured back, right? Like Bo Jackson was banged up. Well, I think in
high school. He got hurt in high school.
Right. And I think it was the Illinois game where he was a little bit hobbled. It's like that was not a result of workload. That was just a result of sometimes you play one snap and you get hurt on it. Like it happens, right? So that's where I think it's interesting because like I think the goal is, can your players be at their best in the postseason and are they still good? And I think the answer for Ohio State was yes. I think Bo Jackson was fresh in the postseason. CJ Donaldson was fresh in the postseason to where maybe they didn't put up exactly the stats that Quinshon and Travion did. Maybe they weren't quite as good as Quinshon or Travion, but you got to the postseason with those guys ready to roll and give you what they need to give you, especially Bo Jackson. And to me, that meets expectations.
I think there's, depending on what argument you want to make, you can say last year's room was better because the upside of it, obviously the top two guys in it. But if you wanted to make the case that the 2025 room was better because it was deeper and there were more options, they walked into Dallas with 4 running backs. Last year, they did not have 4 running backs that they trusted to play. And there's something to that. There's something that's applaudable about the fact that Carlos Lachlan had 4 guys he trusted by the time they got to the college football playoff, when last year, it was essentially the Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson show, while James Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon were kind of just in the background developing. So that's applaudable. That's a guy who's raised the floor, I think, of his room because there was more options. Now, he's losing 2 of those 4 options this offseason with CJ Donaldson graduating and out of eligibility and James Peoples hopping into the portal. But you got 2 still, and we'll see what happens with some of these freshmen and also what they might do in the portal here. I think for me, it's who we talking about with this conversation. If we're basing this conversation off of how we projected the room the first time we did so a year ago, I would say it fell short because James Peoples had 61 carries for 344 yards and 3 touchdowns and 10 catches for 50 yards. So like by that standard, it fell short. It fell short because I think we had this evolving idea of what CJ Donaldson was. And by the end of it, I don't think he met any of those. If I went back and just listened to all the pods and just used every single time we brought up CJ Donaldson's name as a checkpoint of, okay, what do we think about him in January? What do we think about him in March? What do we think about him in June? What do we think about him in August? I don't think he met any of those. I think he was just young room. You need an old guy who you can trust in situationals, which is fine, but it's not great. Especially when you think about the fact that last year, the guy that they used in those situationals, the New England Patriots found out how to use him 6 weeks into the season, and now it feels like he has a 70-yard touchdown run every other week. So you're basing it off that. If we're going to go Isaiah West, Stefan, as early as 2 months ago, we're coming from the Illinois game. I'm going, why is Isaiah West getting carries in this game right now? The game is still on the line. This is not his year, with all due respect to Isaiah West. And now, by the end of the year, we're like, I don't know, man. Maybe he was their second best back all along. Who would have thought that?
That was a funny conversation going into. It was either going into a bye week or going into Wisconsin, where we were just like, we ended that post game pod being like, why the Isaiah West? And then like 2 days later, we did the Leave No Doubt pod, and we were like, so is Isaiah West his best running back?
Yeah. So from that perspective, I don't know, Andrew, coming up from high school when he's dealing with an injury and he misses all of spring and doesn't really get fully healthy until some way in the middle of fall camp, he exceeded expectations simply because he got a lot more snaps than I was expecting him to get. Bo Jackson, I thought Bo would be the James Peoples of this year, even though Carlos Lachlan and plenty of other people said to me, no, that's the best back in the room. And I kept going, yeah, that's cool. But James Peoples and CJ Donaldson, right? They're your new Trey and Q, right? Yeah, Bo. I'm like, yeah, I know, but like, it's his freshman year. It'll be cool. You're going to play the other guys. And then like in 2026, he'll be great. No, Steven, Bo, listen to me. But then Bo didn't play against Texas. And so I was like, okay, you told me all that. And then you didn't play him against Texas. And then he had 1,000 yards in 13 games. So he exceeded expectations. So I think in terms of answering the question as a whole, it's probably meat. But it's because the room shaped out the way we thought it was going to shape out. It's just the people we thought would be in each seat aren't who ended up in each seat. In January, you would have thought James Peoples would have had the 179 carries for 1,090 yards and 6 touchdowns. You probably would have thought CJ Donaldson would have the 96 carries for 361 yards and 10 touchdowns. And you would have thought, hey, maybe this is a 3-man room. So let's take what James Peoples had, add 30 carries to it, and take the other 29 carries at Isaiah West and just sprinkle them across the board type of thing. But the fact that it was a 4-man room, I think you can be proud of. But more doesn't always mean better, which is, I think, Gillis's point in all this. Just because you have more options doesn't mean you have a whole bunch of quality options. It just means you have more people so that by the time you get to January, you are fresh. But to be fair, they were fresh last year too, and they only played 2 guys.
You know what they say, if you have 4 running backs, you don't have 1. The famous football saying that everybody's known for decades.
I love that saying is both true and a lie at the same time. It just depends on the given year and how you feel about your room. It's like, yeah, we have all these options. Yeah, but if you had J.K. Dobbins, you wouldn't be playing all these options. That's not the point. We're not talking about what we don't have right now. We're talking about what we do have. Best thing about this room, Steph, 2025.
It's Bo Jackson's emergence. I think you walk away from this season thinking to yourself, you have one of the best returning running backs in the country going into 2026, and he's got experience now. And I think that's something that also, as we talk about this running back room in terms of meeting and exceeding expectations, is Ryan Day reminded us of this a lot, that like outside of CJ, not a lot of these guys had experience, right? James Peoples was around for a season, but what was your favorite memory from James Peoples during the 2024 campaign, right? What was his best play? Off the top of your head, you probably can't name it, right? And that's the point of like, even James Peoples in 2025 was getting a workload and working in a role that he hadn't had before, right? Let alone, Isaiah West and Bo Jackson. And out of that group, did the guy that we all expected to emerge as the 1,000-yard rusher emerge? No. But you had someone emerge, right? And it was Bo Jackson. It's someone you can clearly build around, right? And it's, you see James Peoples' departure, that tells you all you need to know of what trust Ohio State has in Bo Jackson going into next season, the trust they have for Isaiah West going into next season. So in a way, the guy you kind of were planning to build around, or I don't even want to say like Ohio State was planning to build around, but like the way we envisioned it working out, the way everyone envisioned it working out was that James Peoples for at least 2 years was going to be kind of your back, right? And Bo Jackson was going to come along, and some of these younger guys were going to come along, but like James Peoples was going to be the guy. You walked out of that this season with kind of the same mentality on sort of the same timeline with Bo Jackson. He just did it a year earlier than James Peoples was supposed to do it. So the biggest success, or what was the word you used?
Best thing about this.
The best thing to happen was Bo Jackson's emergence, along with Isaiah West also coming along. You have two guys for going into a true sophomore year who, one you trust to be a star, and another you trust that if he develops properly is going to be a 1-2 punch with him. So I think you walk out of this room probably feeling better than you did walking into 2025, right? Because walking into 2025, we were confident in what James and CJ were going to do and what maybe some of the younger guys were going to do behind the scenes. I think you walk out of that going into 2026 even more confident than you were, saying to yourself, we have a dude and we're going to find someone in this mix, whether it's Isaiah, whether it's a portal guy, whether it's Turbo coming along, or whether it's, you got Favorite Key coming in, like whatever it is, you're confident that someone in this bunch is going to emerge, and maybe a couple guys emerge. Maybe you have 3 really good options this year, right? Like people are going to emerge to play alongside Bo Jackson and give you a real quality punch, a quality guy at the top, quality depth. You feel really good about this running back room, and I think the reason why is because you have Bo Jackson, and you tell yourself, we'll figure out the rest. Once you've got one, you can figure out the rest.
Best thing about the room, Gillis.
Yeah, it's what Stefan said, but I don't want to disregard Isaiah West. Like, I'm not saying he did that, but I don't think people should forget this. Like, Isaiah West is a damn good running back. And like, I don't think this is going to be a situation where it's, hey, Bo Jackson's going to get 275 carries and then Isaiah can get 75 and then hip, hip, hooray. Like, not only have we not seen Ohio State do that in the last 2 years, like they will lean on a guy. They leaned on Quinshawn more than they leaned on Travion. They leaned on Bo, obviously, more as the season went on. But I think you trust 2 guys, and I think you feel good about those guys because Bo Jackson being banged up could obviously, you could just point to the fact that he was 18 years old and he was a really young kid. And like, I don't know, like you could say like, oh, everybody gets hurt in a football season, but like there's a difference between like he's just sore and tired, and there's a difference between like he's actually got something lingering that he's dealing with. And like we don't know specifically what Bo was lingering with, but he was obviously not 100%, and he wasn't 100% in like the way of just like I don't think he was tired. I think he was that, but like you get him back another year stronger, another year older, another year more mature. Then you add Isaiah into that, and I think that's going to be a really, really big X factor for this team in 26 of just not, hey, you've got this really good running back in Bo. Like, you've got another really good running back in Isaiah, and they're both second-year guys. They're both guys that you would expect to make that leap. So I think it's the emergence of the 2 freshmen. I don't think it's just Bo. Like, I think I'm looping Isaiah into that as well. Because, yeah, he only had 59 carries, but I think we really liked what we saw. And then I think you have to bake into account that he blew an ACL in high school, like midway through his season. And I think like he told me like the first time that he came back was in, I think it was like mid to late August when he was like, actually like, I'm good. I'm ready to go. So I think about it, like that Wisconsin game was like right around a year from his ACL. And it's like, okay, now this guy gets a whole off season, which like he didn't have really last year. He wasn't able to kind of run through stuff. He had to take a lot of mental reps. I'm very bullish about those 2, and it's not just a Bo thing. I'm looping Isaiah in.
Bo Jackson had 26 touches against Michigan, 22 carries for 117 yards, and 4 catches for 49 yards. Like that was the most workhorse like we've seen in Ohio State running back since Carlos Loughlin got here. Because I don't think Quinshawn Judkins had a single game when he was here when he had over 20 carries, which is kind of the point here. Mine is the best thing about this room is they figured out who their best 2 guys are and got to the end of the year playing those guys, and then they're holding on to those guys. The portal is still open as we're recording this, and as you're listening to this, I do not expect Isaiah West to go onto that portal. I don't think anybody's expecting Bo Jackson to hop into the portal. If they do, like I don't know. very much changes the tenor of how I'm viewing this offseason right now for Ohio State. Because right now they're losing a bunch of backups. And yeah, they're shiny backups, but they're still just backups. And that's dismissive, but that's also the fact that depth in college football isn't going to be what it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, where you can just hoard a bunch of 4- and 5-star recruits. No, depth is going to look a lot different, where there's going to be maybe a significant drop-off between where your starters are in a given year and where your backups are. And to be honest with you, that's where a lot of college football has lived. It's just the upper class of college football who is going to have to get used to that. And Ohio State has held on to that idea maybe longer than others, that they've been able to have deep rooms where this dude is the number 67 player in his recruiting class and he doesn't play until year 3, and he's just kind of hanging out waiting his turn. That doesn't necessarily exist anymore because of NIL in the transfer portal. That's the best thing for me. I actually don't care who it is. I didn't care if it was CJ Donaldson, James Peoples, Bo Jackson, and Isaiah West. It could have been Bo Jackson and James Peoples. It could have been Bo Jackson and CJ Donaldson. It could have been Isaiah West and CJ Donaldson, Isaiah West and James Peoples. Regardless of what the mixture was, for all we know, it could have been Sam Williams-Dixon, who for whatever reason had a heck of a offseason and ended up being more in the mix than he was. Whatever got you the best guys once you got into a playoff setting, which for them they felt was Bo Jackson not really coming off the field and CJ Donaldson going in there for situationals. Okay, fine. If you think that's your best two, that's your best two. But then also, what holds on to the top of the room? I don't know. Does anybody see them losing Sam Williams-Dixon and James Peoples and CJ Donaldson to graduation and 2 to the portal? Does that fundamentally change the way you view what the upside of the room is in 2025? No. Probably not. And it's not out of disrespect to them. It's just they're good football players. Bo Jackson has some traits about him that if he's the 26th pick in his NFL draft, no one's going to be shocked by that. Isaiah West, to Andrew's point, we saw little bits and pieces for a guy who a year ago at this time was trying to recover from an ACL injury. So he's never had a full offseason. He's never had the full preparation that goes into preparing for a college football season. So what's that going to look like? Assuming he gets through all of this healthy and he gets to the Ball State game healthy, he gets to the Texas game healthy. And so I think there's reasons to be excited about the running back room because of what we saw, what they got to by the end of it, and which ones they held on to. With that being said, I think the worst thing about this room, they didn't hit home runs nearly as often as they needed to hit home runs. And I think it exacerbated the fact that they weren't great in the red zone this year, this offense, was that how many times did you look at a run and you were like, Travion Henderson scores? And it's not fair because everybody can't be Travion Henderson, right? Like, I don't know, Notre Dame, you brought them up, Andrew. Like, there's a difference between Jeremiah's love and his like gear versus the rest of the room of like, oh, that running back went for 40. Jeremiah Love would have got the extra 7 yards. But that's also the point with Ohio State's run game and where it is right now. They are not going to be, I know they had the 20-play drive against Michigan. That's not who they are. That was to prove a point against a team who had been doing that to you for 4 years. Their running game is very, I'm going to use a baseball analogy. So, yep, everybody gear up. It's like having an on-base percentage that sucks, but you know this guy can go yard.
My favorite type of baseball player.
Yeah.
Swing hard and hope you hit it.
But it's not, but I don't know if it's not efficient baseball, but it scores points. And
you better hit. But that's the thing. If you're gonna have here, I'll put some numbers on it to help Stephen out. If your batting average is gonna be 215 and your on base percentage is gonna be low, you better hit 40 home runs.
That's what I'm saying.
You better be putting it in the seats
because it's the trade-off you have,
right?
And I think that's why the marriage between Travion and Quinshon was so great. I think Quinshon's on base percentage was elite, which is why he's the back that was out there against Penn State when they ran the last 6 minutes of the clock going. When you just want to stay on schedule, Quinshon was magnificent at that. But who was out there when they needed to see if they could hit a home run before halftime against Texas? But if you watch, Travion was fine in between the tackles, but he wasn't great. It was very up and down his entire career. But I mean, if both guys averaged 6 yards per carry, I mean, who averaged more yards per carry last year? Travion Henderson. Because sure, the first 4 runs went for 2 yards each. But then he banged one for 67. Remember your first game on the beat, Gillis? Like, Travion Henderson didn't run well that day. Who cares? He had a 61-yard run for a touchdown. That's the equalizer with all of that. And I felt like that was missing this year. I thought James Peoples could be it, but he just never really materialized into much. I don't think Isaiah West is that type of back. I think Bo is a really good superstar back. I'm still interested in seeing what his upside is as a home run hitter because there were some opportunities where he didn't get home. Right now, he had the one against Purdue. First play of the game, he takes it yard. Jeremiah Smith, the bad blocker, has an illegal block in the back, and it takes a touchdown off the board. That's not his fault. But he also had a run against Penn State where he just kind of ends up out of bounds. And I'm going and rewatching that game, and I'm like, man, Travion would have scored there. Listen, these are first world problems. But this is a first world program, so we're dealing with first world problems. How many of their problems would have been fixed simply if Bo Jackson or James Peoples or C.J. Donaldson or Isaiah West could get that extra 4 yards instead of getting hawked down at the 4-yard line, and now Ohio State has to figure out how to punch off a drive in the red zone where they also weren't good. I think that combination of the run game took some time to get going. They never really consistently found home run hitters, and the red zone issues all kind of created this world where Ohio State's flaws were so heavy that against the wrong opponents, they would end up on the wrong side of a loss, and that's what happened at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think another interesting thing too, like that is an element with this running game. Well, I guess now we're talking about worst thing to happen. This kind of ties back to best, but it was a little bit of a proof of concept in terms of Carlos talking about how he has 5 or 6 guys in the room, and we all kind of laughed and we're like, oh, like, yeah, but like we know it's going to be James and CJ. It's like, no, there is a little proof of concept of like he is going to play the best players regardless. And not to say like I ever doubted that, but like that is a tough thing for coaches to do. There's a lot of coaches who fail because they make promises to guys and they keep those promises and aren't willing to move away from it. So that you talking about that kind of got me sidetracked and thinking. So that goes into the good thing. In terms of the bad thing, I think there's the home runs kind of tie into this as well because it just felt like it took a while for the running game to get going. And part of that was them not breaking big plays and not getting those home runs. And some of that is a result of you had young backs who were getting, significant carries for the first time, and they're trying to learn a collegiate game. And like your most experienced guy was not a home run hitter, like not at all. Like that's not what C.J. Donaldson was. So for you to get the home runs, you needed some of these young guys to come along. And I feel like maybe you got some of that, in November, but then again, you were also, playing against some poor rush defenses in UCLA and Rutgers and Purdue. But just the lack of consistency in the run game, I think is what the worst thing was for me. And home runs play into that. But there was it just felt at times like it was sloppy. It was being experimented with and tweaked and just a lack of a rhythm, I think would maybe be a good way to describe it with the run game. And I think, Stephen, you and I did, pods, Monday pods where we would kind of look back and, try to figure out what the issues with the run game were. Some of it was offensive line. Some of it was, blocking on the perimeter. Some of it was just, hey, James Peoples or Bo Jackson, like make a guy miss, like break a tackle, like be a star running back that you are, right? So that was the worst thing for me was just like, it felt like forever for it to get going. And I don't know if I ever really thought like it did consistently get to that point, right? Because UCLA and Rutgers, like, sure, I mean, congrats, like good running games against them. And like against Michigan, it was like, all right, like this is starting to work. But then your running game wasn't very consistent against Indiana and Miami again. So that was probably the worst thing for me was like you had some of these players come along and start to break out, but it still never felt like your running game truly found its rhythm. And that probably ties into kind of the offense as a whole. It felt like this offense never really got much of a rhythm either.
Worst thing, Gillis?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Stephen. If you're not going to be that level of, efficient, you'd better be able to kind of pull yourself out of the mud. Maybe it's a problem that we've done 2 straight pods now, and I've said Ohio State wasn't able to pull themselves out of the mud, and it's like, I don't know, why are you in the mud? Why does it have to be muddy? Why does Julian saying have to pull yourself out of the mud? Oh, well, the running backs, you got to pull themselves out of the mud. Well, why does the offensive line? It's like, maybe just avoid the mud. But yeah, you're right. Like, I think kind of maybe fundamentally how that game could have been different. And frankly, like Ohio State was playing slow this year. If you don't play, you're not playing as slowly if you're breaking off 40-yard runs once a game, twice a game, because you're just moving down the fields. Ohio State only had 3 possessions in the second half against Miami. You start to think like, all right, that would have been a really good time for somebody to break one because like I've said this to Stephen, the more possessions in that game, you start to wonder like if that game was 5 years ago, does 14 possessions each matter? Does Ohio State win a game in that situation where there's 14 possessions? I don't know. But yeah, that was my worst thing.
Quick answers here. Scale of 1 to 10, how good was the running back room in 2025? Gillis, you first. Quick answer.
How good? 6. I think it was slightly above average. If 5 is average, 1 is awful, 10 is incredible, I'm slightly above average.
I'll go a little bit higher. I'll say 7.
5.
Interesting.
I don't know if it did its job this year. If the way I'm describing what the run game should be, I don't think it accomplished that. I think there was some good. I'm not saying there was all bad, but I don't know if it accomplished the thing it's supposed to be for Ohio State to do what it wants to do offensively. Are the starters already on the roster or in its 2026 recruiting class? Stefan, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Gillis.
Yeah, they're already on the roster.
Okay.
The 26 recruiting class is very depth, like very specific. Yeah.
Okay. Yes or no? No explanations, just yes or no. Is everybody who's going to make a meaningful impact in Ohio State's back room already on its 2026 roster, whether that be returning players or in the recruiting class? Stefan?
No. I think there is maybe a desire for CJ Donaldson type in the portal.
Gillis. Okay. Biggest question for the position group heading into the offseason, Andrew Gillis.
Can Bo and Isaiah become well-rounded enough to be Travion Quinshon-esque? I think you can have a third option in there, but I think the thing that you want to have as part of your arsenal is Travion was a unique running back because he was one of the best pass blocking backs in the country, and you were able to use him in a speedy manner, right? Like, you throw him a screen pass against Texas. I know all of us that are on this podcast could have gotten some amount of yards considering how much space there was, but Travion breaks that to the house. But he's also in the game because he can pass block really well. It's like, you don't want to be in a situation where, it is much different than at receiver where it's like, God, but this guy can't pass block really well, or can't run block really well. I guess we just have to live with it. It's like a running back. If it's 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 13 and you're back up against it, or you just have to throw the ball, and Bo Jackson can't pass block worth a you-know-what, you got to take him out of the game. And that's not a business you want to be in, taking your best back out of the game. Like, we saw it against Penn State, where they put in CJ Donaldson. They ran the ball in the first play to try to get some yardage and start to, maybe move the clock a little bit. Donaldson got stripped. And I don't know, like, I'm not necessarily saying like the run was a bad call or whatever. CJ's got to be better, but does year 2 Bo Jackson get taken out of the game in that situation? Or does year 2 Isaiah West get taken out of the game in that situation because you're like, we need a pass blocker. We need somebody. Somebody's got to block these guys. Like, we'll have him help, and then we'll have him pass block the rest of the drive. I don't know. Avoid that situation. I mentioned the home run hitting. Steven mentioned it. You got to, add that to your arsenal. You got to think that would kind of come with getting bigger, faster, stronger, more experienced, having a lot of experience under your belt. So that to me is just becoming well-rounded enough to where you don't have to look at it and go, well, this guy's our speed guy, and this guy's our slasher, and this guy's our pass catching back, and this guy's our pass blocker. And it's like, okay, all those guys can excel at one thing, but like at some point you're going to need to lean on a guy or two. And I think that's what they need for Bo and Isaiah. So can they become the 2 running backs that you can just say, these are our 2 guys. We don't really have to worry about taking them out of the game unless both of them are gassed.
How many running backs does Carlos Loughlin want to play is my question. Because, again, I think it just, I don't know. Like, yeah, the big thing is I just want to see if they can get home run hitters in there, but I'm not going to find that out in the offseason. I'm not going to find that out until September 5th when they start playing football. I want to know how many Carlos Loughlin wants to play. And I don't want to have as many as if you play good enough, if you practice well enough, you'll play. No, how many do you want? Because it felt like 2 was perfect harmony. And that's not to say that this year wasn't perfect harmony, but there were times when it felt like a guy would get going and then Carlos Loughlin would pull him. And we'd be like, he just had 3 good runs. Let him go. So what's the magic number at running back in 2026 where no one's carrying the ball 30 times a game? We're not doing that anymore. You do want a room. You want to be more running back by committee than what J.K. Dobbins was in 2019. But you also can't play everybody. You can't have everybody playing So what's the magic number? In a perfect world where everything went the way Carlos Loughlin wanted it to go, how many do you want to play every single Saturday? Because then we can talk about it in that gauge of, okay, do we think after 15 practices, do we think Ohio State has 3 guys that can play? The portal's closing on January 16th. So on January 17th, it's like, okay, is there an option to go get a guy that can add so they can have this many? Do they already have it? When you go from when you're used to J.K. Dobbins getting the ball 300 times, and then you go from that to Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson both have 1,000 yards. So now you have 4 guys playing every single week. It can feel chaotic and like nobody can get a rhythm. So like how many is a reasonable number to play? Okay, that's the running back side of things. We're going to take a break here. You're going to pay some bills. You're going to hear a bunch of commercials and whatnot. And then when we come back, we're going to shift over to the defensive side and talk James Laurinaitis and the linebackers here on
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Stouffer's. Here comes 3-time juggling champion Natalia Rogers. She's juggling law school, her TA job. Oh, narrowly catches the laundry. What's that 4th ball? Parents unexpectedly showed up at dinner time? Is that too much for Natalia? Not with Stouffer's Chicken Alfredo and its mouth-watering mix of Asiago, Romano, and Parmesan. When you're juggling 4 things at once and the clock strikes dinner, think Stouffer's.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Stefan Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis. Season-ending reviews, going through all the rooms and trying to talk about what they were this year and what they might need in the portal, but also what they might be in 2026. And we move on to the linebacker room after a nice discussion about the running backs. I thought that was fun. You guys enjoy that? That was good. You guys enjoyed the running back conversation?
I don't think we talked about pass pro enough. I could have gone for another hour talking about pass pro with those guys.
Yeah. I guess that's something where it's like, do you just assume it's going to get better because they're going to get older and do it more often, though? I mean, we say that. We did a lot of assuming with Ohio State's offense this year, and it did none of those things. So you're probably that's a fair thing.
You make one Zoom, have Travion do like a Zoom call with the class, like guest speaker to the running backs room in like March, and be like, hey, here's how you pass pro.
Here's how you handle somebody trying to run through your face to get to your quarterback with Travion Henderson. Okay, linebacker talk starts with Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. Both of those guys end up being first-team All-Americans and get trees. Sonny Styles made one All-American team, while Arvell Reese was a consensus All-American. In fact, Sonny Styles is the reason why Arvell Reese is not a unanimous All-American, but also you can say that Arvell Reese is the reason why Sonny Styles was not a multi-team All-American, right? So they just kind of took away from each other all year long, and now they're both going to be first-round draft picks. Behind those two guys, you had Peyton Pierce, Riley Pettijohn, Garrett Stover, TJ Alford, and Eli Lee in the room. Stefan, let's start with you. Did the Ohio State linebacker room exceed, meet, or fall short of expectations in 2025?
So Sonny Styles took a step forward and was an All-American caliber player, and Arvell Reese became a no-doubt first-round pick All-American player. Sounds like it met my expectations.
Your expectations,
right? Everything I just set up like they exceeded expectations. They were awesome. Some of us thought Arvell Reese was going to be exactly what he turned out to be. So I have to say meet, because this is what my predictions and my expectations were. I drove the bus for Arvell Reese, I think, during a bye week in the 2024 season, where we kind of added some buses and or added little sidecars to our buses. And I said Arvell was going to be the Butkus Award winner. I was slightly off on that, I suppose, because of Jacob Rodriguez.
You were off because we choose the awards. If the voting went a little differently, he would have won it. So I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Yeah. I mean, he developed into I don't know. There was a point this very recently this season where people were saying Arvell Reese is going to be the number 1 overall pick. Now the Raiders have the first overall pick, so that's kind of out of the picture. They're going to go quarterback, whether it's Fernando or Dante. But Arvell Reese was everything we built him to be. I know I'm the one who like drove the bus for him, but you guys like all very much agreed that like he was going to be awesome this year. So they were awesome. I should say they exceeded expectations, but my expectations were literally so high that I have to say they met expectations, which is not at all a bad thing.
Exceeding expectations is if they one of them would have randomly been playing tight end until now they're just Iron Man.
Listen, one of them could have played fullback. But also, exceeding expectations would have been like, the only way to exceed them would be like Arvell goes number 1 and Sonny goes number 2 in the NFL draft.
I mean, I don't think it's not going to happen, but also.
If it was like Titans Commanders picking 1-2, I don't know, maybe.
I don't think, if there was a draft analyst out there who put out a big board after the combine, they were like the number 1 and number 2 players on my list, or Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, I wouldn't scoff at it at all. That's 2 dudes who are 6'4", 240 pounds, and can run like the wind. It's insane. And one of them was playing safety 2 years ago. It's insane. Also, Sonny Styles' father, Sonny, Lorenzo Styles Sr., listens to the pod, apparently. He told me that when we were getting on our flight. So, shout out to the Styles family.
So does Jeff Ward, Austin Ward's dad. Shout out to him. I've been holding
that.
Yeah,
we were definitely supposed to just shout that out. Shout out to Mr. Ward as well. Shout out to everybody who listens to the pod. We just like to name drop people sometimes. Gillis, exceed, meet, or fall short. And remember, the Styles family is listening.
I don't have anybody to name drop besides the random people that we've met this year that say, hey, man, are you Andrew? I listen to the pod. So shout out those people. I think Stefan is lying. It's exceed because, like, I don't know. If I had said, hey, Stefan, Arvell Reese is going to declare, where's he going to go? I don't think he would have said, like, 3rd. Like, I don't think
he would have said 23rd.
Yeah, he would have said, like, here's the thing. Him saying, like, Sonny Styles is, like, really good. He's going to be 40th. And Arvell, because he maybe is an edge rusher, is going to be 19th. And we would have been like, wow, that's a great year for Ohio State's linebackers. And now we're sitting in this situation like, I don't know, man. Could Arvell go 4 and I don't know who has the 4th pick, but could Arvell go 4 and Sonny go 13? We're getting 2 first half of the first round linebackers. That's crazy. Like, I know it's funny because like Sonny missed a tackle against Miami that everybody remembers. It was the first one he missed all year. So it's like everybody's like, oh, I remember it. Yeah, the reason you remember it is because he doesn't do that. Because he's a dude who, like, I was explaining it to one of my friends. He covers the Commanders, and I was like, if they trade back, like Sonny should be in their ballpark at like 10 to 15 because great leader, doesn't miss tackles, can blitz, can run. You can use him in a lot of different ways. Yeah, like you got a guy who can be an edge rusher, even though Ohio State, I think they fell in love with the idea of him being a spy more than an edge rusher this year, and they didn't really use him off the edge as much. So, like, we'll see. But yeah, it exceeded expectations. They were incredible. And then, by the way, it's not just those two. Like, I thought Peyton Pierce played really well in spots as well. Like, when they put him in the game, he not only, like, when Ohio State was kind of taking it to him in the first half of that game against Miami, he was the one who forced a fumble. He punched the ball out and recovered it himself. Like, I don't know, when Peyton Pierce played this year, I thought he looked really good, and it would not shock me if you go into next year and Peyton Pierce is kind of the unquestioned linebacker that everybody's kind of like looking around at each other going like, yeah, why are they so worried about Peyton Pierce? Why is everybody asking about Peyton Pierce replacing Sonny Styles? Yeah, Sonny's great, but we also really like Peyton, so they exceeded expectations. They were incredible.
Yeah, my exceeded has nothing to do with the 2 freaks of nature who played all the snaps this year and everything to do with the 2 guys behind them that have me excited about what's coming down the line with James Laurinaitis, who I think is now arguably the most important assistant coach on the roster going forward. When you talk about the way he's recruiting, the way he's developing, I mean, we'll talk about wide receivers tomorrow, but I guess what's the better tandem, Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate or Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese?
Best ability is availability.
I think, but even fully healthy, I think there's a case to be made because they're all going to be first. Okay, it's like, oh, Jeremiah Smith might be the number 1 pick in his NFL job. Okay, so could Arvell Reese. Sonny Styles is super underrated because he's playing with a freak of nature who's getting all the pub. So you don't realize this is a top 10 pick. Okay, so is Carnell Tate. So I think it's a case to be made.
Well, and how much they relied on their defense sometimes in the biggest games, I would argue that having those two guys was more important at times than the other two.
Yeah.
And that's not to diminish the other two. That's just like the way this season played out, the way some of the biggest games played out. Yeah, you needed Sonny and Arvell. I don't think it's crazy thing to say. I think with James too, like sometimes we like anytime you talk about culture, like as a reporter, it sounds so corny sometimes. But like
you start sounding like a homer when you talk about culture.
But like with Brian Hartline walking out the door, like there is an element of like James is like the dude on the staff who like knows Ohio State, like gets Ohio State, knows what it's like to play at Ohio State, and all three of us know there is something different about playing at Ohio State compared to most other programs in the country. To have a coach on your staff who gets that is very important. I'm not saying that quarterbacks coach needs to be JT Barrett and wide receivers coach needs to be Brian Hartline and running backs coach needs to be Zeke Elliott. Like that's not how this like has to work. But like having a guy on that staff who like gets that from coaching and player perspective is very important. And James is that guy now, right? Brian Hartline had that as well. James is that guy.
No, Grant. Tim Walton also played here in the 90s. But the point you're making with James Laurinaitis is Brian Hartline recruiting pitch could be, I walked the path that you are trying to walk. I was a wide receiver at Ohio State. I was a 1,000-yard receiver in the NFL. I know what it takes to come here and succeed and then get to the NFL and succeed. Come learn from me how to do it. James Laurinaitis is one of the best linebackers of the 2000s. Without question. So who better to teach Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese how to be an awesome linebacker at Ohio State than James Laurinaitis? Who better to teach Riley Pettijohn and Peyton Pierce and Sincere Johnson and Garrett Stover and TJ Alford and everybody? Who better than James Laurinaitis, the 3-time All-American? The epitome of, oh no, we lost AJ Hawk and Bobby Carpenter. It's okay, we have James. You guys go on with your first-round draft picks and all that stuff. We got James Laurinaitis coming in. And there's value. He now becomes the guy that I think the fan base might be going, please don't leave, please don't leave, please don't leave. And I think it's the value of Matt Patricia, too, which I know. We'll see what happens here, man. So there's a defensive coordinator who lives in Columbus, Ohio, who probably needs a long-term extension, and it needs to happen, I don't know, December 1st it should have happened. But I do think there is value in Brian Hartline got to spend a year learning from Chip Kelly. I think James Laurinaitis spending some time around Matt Patricia for the next couple of years. And then in like 2027, 2028, he takes over as the DC. I don't think that's crazy. In fact, if you had to tell me who's more likely to be Ohio State's next head coach between Brian Hartline and James Laurinaitis, I think I'd lean James between the two of those guys. He is super, super valuable. And that's why for me it's exceeded, because it's like, yeah, we said all these things about Arvell Reese, but it was, man, that was like shot out of a cannon. Even though we kept saying, hey, Anthony Hill and Sonny Styles are great, Arvell Reese might be the best linebacker in this game by the end of that Texas game, watching it play out was still impressive. Watching some of the things they did with the linebackers this year were still like, this is better than even I said it would be, and I already thought it would be amazing. Plus, Peyton Pierce and Riley Pettijohn, I think, looked really good when they had their opportunities. Peyton Pierce forced a fumble against Miami. He had a game-changing play. Riley Pettijohn has a touchdown this year. He was hitting dudes on special teams. I'm really excited about this linebacker room. Best thing, Andrew, about the linebacker room in 2025.
Yeah, this was a hard one, actually, because I don't know how to say it. So you had the best linebacker tandem in the country? I guess that's my answer. I thought that the way that they used them at times was really, really good. I thought when they had Arvell kind of being that he's going to rush off the edge guy, I thought that was, impressive. Sonny was obviously incredible. So yeah, I mean, the best thing about this group was that they were the best in the country, like the best 1-2 tandem in the country. Like I know Jacob Rodriguez at Texas Tech was great and whatever, like they didn't have another guy like him, like they didn't have another, Arvell Reese. Like I know they had David Bailey, but he was a specific edge rusher, right? Like I don't think anybody had what Ohio State had at linebacker. And that is a unique card to have over some teams in college football when you were just able to say, we do this better than you. We are better than you at this group. We have better blank. And I think Ohio State did. So the best thing about this position group for me was that they were the best. I didn't really know a clean way to say that or a way to say that was going to make people go, wow, great point, Andrew. But that's what I got. they were the best in college football in terms of a 1-2 punch.
Stefan,
you reaffirmed and alleviated the worry. You reaffirmed the thoughts and alleviated the worries of the lunatic fringe. The people
I thought you were going to say they made me look right or they made me look good. And I was like, oh, okay.
The people who screamed at their TVs saying, why don't we use Arvell Reese like this? It will help our defense. Their thoughts were reaffirmed. They were not being gaslit and told that it's not going to work. They were showed that this is how you use Arvell Reese and unleash him. And now, as the season progressed, maybe some people were not happy with the usage of Arvell Reese, but it didn't necessarily take away from how good this defense was. So I think it could have been I know, Steven, I think the defense could have been even better, which is scary to think about. I think there could have been more of a havoc element to this defense that didn't necessarily exist. It was a very professional, buttoned up defense. But the point is, we've all been screaming at our TVs for a while now saying, what if you do this with Arvell Reese to help this defense? And for a lot of the season, they did that. And I think that I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek and giving a shout-out to Lunatic Fringe, but the point I'm trying to make is the best thing was you had a coordinator and a staff who were willing to adjust to what was in front of them, right? And I think we all look at the 2024 season, and it was very infuriating at times the way they used their defense, and it felt antiquated. That roster, that starting 11 was kind of best used, I still think, in the way that it was used, right? And going into 2025, you had a coordinator and staff who showed you we are willing to adapt to what is in front of us. And I think that's very important as you go into next year. And maybe next year's defensive roster, we'll see what happens in the portal too, but maybe next year's roster looks a little bit different again. I think if you're an Ohio State fan, you sit back and you say, the best thing to happen in 2025 is that I know in 2026, if it's this same staff, whatever the roster defensively calls for, they will use. They will lean on that. If it includes using an edge rusher / linebacker in the way that you used Arvell Reese, all right, we'll do that. If it includes having a traditional 4-man front, okay, we'll do that, right? That's what I think the best thing is you made the Lunatic Fringe happy because you showed them you're willing to adapt in a way that, again, not dragging Jim Knowles, awesome defensive coordinator, led Ohio State to national title, did great things at Ohio State. This was a step forward. This looked different. This was a level of adapting that we necessarily didn't see a ton of. I think that's the best thing to happen in 2026. In 2025, and I get now that I'm talking about the defense as a whole, but it starts with these linebackers. That's the point I'm trying to make. It starts with how you use these linebackers.
I think the Lunatic Fringe has gotten way too powerful. In terms of their voices, I don't know if they're actually impacting change or not, but it's just the portal's been open for 3 days as we're recording this, 4 days as people are listening to it. And I feel like everything is either the world is falling apart or it's the greatest thing that's ever happened. It's just, man, oh man. I think I'm going to pair mine together, the best and worst things together. But first, I'm going to say this. I would like Ohio State to NFL their defense a little bit more. It's very, what I mean by that is just Micah Parsons was a linebacker at Penn State, and Dallas immediately turned him into an edge rusher, right? Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, we're all in agreement that they're going to get to the NFL and they're going to go get the quarterback on third down. It's not even going to be a conversation, right? That's what's going to happen here. And that doesn't really happen at Ohio State. They're not the first two dudes who were built like that. Actually, no, I'm not going to say that. They're not the first two dudes who had that type of skill set at linebacker. Baron Browning was like that. CJ Hicks, who's obviously in the portal now, and I know, Gillis, you're already... but they're you do think, man, what if they would have done this with CJ Hicks from the get-go? What if they just come here and they went, you know what, you're going to be an edge rusher. We're not going to try to make you do off-ball linebacker stuff. We're going to put you on the edge. Go. I'm not saying he turns into the next Abdul Carter by any means, but maybe his career path goes a little bit differently. Penn State literally did that with Abdul Carter. He showed up as a linebacker, and by the time he got on the field and got good, what was he? Go get the quarterback. So the NFL has done it, and Ohio State's, these are the type of linebackers they're recruiting now. Riley Pettijohn and Peyton Pierce look like traditional off-ball linebackers. But if we show up for the first day of spring practice and Riley Pettijohn all of a sudden looks like a dude where it's that's scary coming off the edge, how about we not have him doing off-ball linebacker things and just go let Riley Pettijohn be the 5-star that he is and go get the quarterback? And it doesn't mean he doesn't have to have other responsibilities. It's just that's what I mean by NFLing your defense a little bit of, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, let it be a duck and stop trying to make it a chicken. With that being said, the thing I'm about to say about these two linebackers is both the best and the worst thing about this group. Everything has a peak, even at a place like Ohio State where they constantly, they don't rebuild, they reload, right? But everything has its height before it has to come back down and kind of reset itself a little bit. right? You had Bobby Carpenter and AJ Hawk and Anthony Schlegel, and then you went to James Laurinaitis and Marcus Freeman, right? And then it took a while, and then you got to what Urban Meyer had during his day, and then it took a while to get back to that. I feel like the linebacker room has been building towards what they had in 2025 for 4 or 5 years here, because you got to remember, Arvell Reese wasn't a 5-star. He was a developmental guy who started out at linebacker. They moved him into the defensive line room for a little bit, for like 2 or 3 weeks there, and then he came back to linebacker. And by the time he was back at linebacker, Stefan was on the beat, and he goes, that guy number 20 doesn't look like a normal dude. And then a year later, he goes, that guy number 8, yeah, that's what I thought he was going to be. When Sonny Styles was getting recruited, he was a number 1 safety in his recruiting class, and then he reclassified to 2023. And so I think he was the number 2 safety behind, ironically enough, Caleb Downs. But I remember his recruitment, and I remember him coming for those day camps in June. And there was one day specifically where, and this is back before, it used to be a longer day, right? By the time you guys got here, it was a shortened day where it's like, okay, we're going to do all this in 2.5 hours and get out of here. That used to be like a 6 or 7 hour day where in the morning they would do the scrimmage. They would do the line of scrimmage guys. And then in the afternoon, they would do the skill guys, and you would be there all day. I remember this day specifically because Sonny Styles was at Ohio State the entire day. He did stuff with Larry Johnson. He did stuff with Al Washington, who was the linebackers coach at that point. He worked out with Kerry Combs, who was the DB's coach. He did everything that day. And that was like the idea of Sonny Styles is, man, we don't know where we're going to put him, but we know he's going to be a freak wherever you put him. And then he gets here as an early enrollee, reclassified kid, playing safety, covering Brock Bowers in the Peach Bowl. And then he's the starting safety in 2023, where he was good, but it's like, let's make him a linebacker now. He's way too far away from the ball. And then in 2024, I thought he had a really good season. And then in 2025, he went supernova. Arvell Reese, it just was like supernova the moment he got onto the field. Is that fair to say every single year? This might be the best linebacker tandem they've had in the past 25 years. So are we just expecting every year they're going to throw out Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles? When we're saying both of these guys if the draft starts at 8 o'clock, by 9 p.m., they both might already know where they're going to play football. And the only reason it's going to take that long is because of the entertainment value, and everybody gets 10 minutes in between each pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's a high bar. It's a very high standard. But, like, I think James Laurinaitis would probably be the first to tell you that, like, this is what turning over linebackers at Ohio State should look like because, hello, I was part of it.
No, you're right. But I guess the great thing about this room is that, man, they have, like, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Joey Bosa level linebackers. They're at linebacker what Marvin Harrison Jr. and Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and Jeremiah Smith are. But here's how I'll present it. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson are the beginning of the Ohio State wide receiver run. JJ's the peak. Joey Bosa is the beginning of that decade-long defensive line edge rusher run. Chase Young is the peak. Are these two Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson? Or are they JJ and Carnell?
I think I would maybe say that they're the start of it. And there could be a peak coming. Would it shock you if under James Laurinaitis' regime here, if Ohio State had a Micah Parsons type?
He's
and
from
maybe even to the point
Yes.
of like a Micah Parsons type who's winning at the highest level, has a team who's undefeated. It's like, oh, Ohio State has a linebacker who like might go to New York. Would not shock.
No, I think you guys know I love Riley Pettijohn. I think he's going to be amazing here. I think his skill set and his size and whatnot just might be more traditional linebacker, and that's not what you're talking about. I think the guy you're talking about, and Gillis, you can speak to this more because he's still like he's a recruit, and he just had like a really awesome All-American game. That dude was balling. Like it's a Sincere Johnson is what you're talking about. Another Glenville kid.
I'm ready.
Like I think that's the hope of it, because the worst thing for me is like, what if this is the peak? And it's like, man, that was awesome. I just wish it was just a little longer. Like I had more time with it. Like you got time with what Larry Johnson did in the ends. You got time with what Brian Hartline did with the wide receivers. I'm really hoping we get time with these linebackers. So like, if Stefan is going to tell me that like Sincere Johnson is like the next evolution of this, sign me up. I'm just not going to automatically assume that, 6'4", 245 and runs a 4.5 and can cover. doesn't fall off trees, which is why they go in the first 10 picks of the NFL draft. So I'm not just going to assume automatically the next guy up is going to be that, because the NFL doesn't get that every single year. So why would a college football team get that every year?
Yeah, I actually think this is more the peak rather than the start, but like, I don't know.
What a peak.
Yeah, well, it's a great peak. You've got 2 top half of the first round level players. One of them might go like top 5, and then the other one is probably going to go like top 16. And I don't know, that's pretty good. And the thing with a peak is that it doesn't have to be like you start at the bottom, up, peak, down. You could, I don't know, you could still see the peak from 10 feet lower. Like, I don't know. Would it be the worst thing in the world? Would we be on this podcast going like, what the world happened to this linebacker room? James Laurinaitis is awful. If Peyton Pierce becomes the 48th overall pick and Riley Pettijohn goes third, like, are we sitting here like, no, what happened? Oh my God, this is a travesty. Why won't anybody talk about what's happening to the linebackers? And it's like, I don't know, man, they still got 2 top 50 runs. Like that means it's lower than what it was. You had 2 All-American linebackers. Like that means maybe you have 1. Oh no, the horror. Like you can still have 2 really good linebackers. Oh, maybe the other guy's an all Big Ten player, but he's not an All-American. Like, I don't know. I think this is the peak because I just think it's really hard to get better than what you had with Sonny and Arvell. But I also like, when I say peak, I don't want this to sound like, well, it's all down here from here, fellas. All downhill from here, fellas. Enjoy the ride because look at the mountaintop and take a picture because it's going down. It's like, no, I don't know. You could go down and still get a great picture from 20 feet below.
Yeah, standard's a standard. Listen, when they came off of that Chase Young peak, it took JT and Jack some time to turn it, like in Zach Harrison. It took them some time to turn it. And it's not, they were good football players, but they weren't, first round draft picks. And that's what Ohio State likes. They like guys who go in the first 32 picks of NFL drafts. Because after that, it's like, man, you're a 5-star who didn't necessarily completely pop the way you should have popped. Stefan, rate this group on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how good they were in 2025.
9.5. They were awesome. And I wish they had kept unleashing Arvell Reese the way they did early in the season. That's my drop off on the 0.5. That's not an indictment on Sonny or Arvell. That's like, hey, Matt Patricia, your first year as defensive coordinator was also 10 out of 10. I'm taking away half a point because you didn't do what I like seeing.
The fringe has taken over Stefan on the mic today.
The fringe is sometimes too chaotic for me. I tread carefully. But when I agree with the fringe, that's where I'm like, let's go.
I think the fringe is great. It's fun. It's entertaining. But sometimes it's like, guys, just like
meditate.
Yeah.
just like go for a walk.
I think the fringe have been good for everybody though. And from a totality standpoint, are they always good? No, of course they've done some things that are a little bit crazy. But I think in terms of like the entertainment value, it's fun. It's fun to watch. Because listen, there's always people on both sides of the extreme, right? There are people who are probably looking at Ohio State season and they're a little too positive about what happened this year. And there are people who are probably too negative. It's just the fringe have put a name tag on what they are. And then there's the rest of us who live in the middle. But it's also where we're supposed to live in the middle as media members. We're supposed to like, hey, this is all shiny and beautiful and sunny. There's a cloud over there. You might need to pay attention because it could start raining. You should bring your coat. And then there's the I can't swim. It's 1 feet, stand up. And I think that's our job by providing information and providing context to everything that we do. With that context where Stefan is taking away a half a point because they stopped doing the thing that we thought was the best thing about this linebacker group. But overall, group was still good. Fair point. Gillis, give us your rating.
10.
And then there's Gillis. His context is, I don't care. I knew what I watched this year. They're awesome.
Yeah, they were buying Kobe beef for the whole season, and then they switched at the very end and they said, well, we're going to buy the 4-ounce Kobe beef instead of the 6. And we're like, well, what? You had the 6 going great for you.
Yeah.
It was still great. It was still elite. But it's like, we could have had more of it. And I wish you had more of it. So I'm a 10. And it's not Arvell or Sonny or like even like Peyton Pierce. Like it's not their fault. So like I think I was kind of leaning on like not leaning toward. I was debating doing what Stefan did and saying like, I wish we had seen more of Arvell as a pass rusher late in the season. Like, I think I saw somewhere like he had 13 pass rush reps against Texas and then didn't have that many in a single game the rest of the year.
No.
Now I know they were up a lot, and that maybe kind of gave you some time to maybe take some guys out of games, but I would have had him do it a little bit more, but that's not his fault. So what he did was great, and what Sonny did was great.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
And I ask carefully, because their losses were 13-10 and 24-14, where only 17 of those points were allowed by the defense.
Go ahead and make my point. Go ahead and make it.
Was there a point in the last two games, whether it be hindsight or whether it be live in action, where you genuinely thought them using Arvell the way they did instead of the way they could have? And some of that is Arvell's choice at the line of scrimmage. Some of that is defensive coach. Like a lot of people go into this decision making here. Not that it cost them a game, but it held them back a little bit. And maybe in a game where Miami has a pick six, you could have maybe given yourself an extra opportunity or two to get a strip sack with Arvell Reese.
Yes, I do. And it's why I docked him a full point. Because Caleb Downs did everything he possibly could for Ohio State to win that game.
And then some.
And then he literally had 2 forced fumbles. It's not his fault. You know how they talk about sometimes the ball doesn't bounce our way? Both of Caleb Downs' fumble force, like both of his peanut punches just like ended right back into the hands of the ball carrier. Like, what do you do? It's like, if you're Caleb, it's like, what do you do with that? I did what I was supposed to do. I was in the right position. I made the play. I went for a tackle. In fact, I tried to give my team the ball back. It's not my fault that a football is weirdly shaped, and so it just so happened to bounce right back into Malachi Tony's hands twice.
It tends to happen at the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, you know. You did point out that the pick six was literally the same path that the strip sack was at, which is insane. Peyton Pierce, he had a strip sack. I mean, he had a strip sack. He had a peanut punch too, and he recovered it himself. I do think that, and I do blame them a little bit. I know, Gillis, you're saying it's not their fault, but Matt Patricia explained it to us. They do have the choice. He has given them a level of freedom to where it was like, this is the structure you're playing out of. You guys communicated out there. And for whatever reason, after the Penn State game, Arvell Reese never thought it was the right thing to do to go pass rush anymore. And when he did, he didn't get home. That's the other key part of this. You're doing it less and you're not getting home because Fernando Mendoza got away from you or because Carson Beck got away from you and converted a 3rd and 11. I think that's got to matter for something because there's an element to it of, yes, the defense was great all year, but in the moment where you absolutely needed to have it, Sonny Styles missed the tackle. And it's one all year. So it doesn't like change the trajectory and the overall picture of how we talk about those two guys. But it is important that if we're going to talk about how Jermaine Matthews didn't make the play on the ball against Indiana on some of those deep shots, we have to talk about how Sonny Styles in the hole did not make the tackle. If we're going to talk about how Jeremiah Smith missed a block that led to a pick six and Julian Sand missed an open Max Clare heading into the end zone, we have to talk about the fact that Arvell Reese didn't get home and that he became more of an idea the last month and a half of the season than a reality. All those things are true. Again, it doesn't change we still think they're awesome football players. Everything we said for the last 20 minutes about them still reigns true. But what also reigns true is when it was time to make a play in the Cotton Bowl, Miami's players made the plays. Mark Fletcher made plays. Malachi Tony was not a threat at all in the Cotton Bowl. The DBs had him handled. We were talking about, Lorenzo Styles against Malachi Tony. Is that going to be a problem? And Lorenzo Styles was like, no, we're fine. Mark Fletcher was a problem. Against Indiana, Omar Cooper got knocked out the first time they tried to go deep. Elijah Surratt was fine. Their other receiver was fine. Fernando Mendoza was fine. Black, their running back, was fine. So there's an element here of, we talked about Julian Sand about how he was awesome, and then like in the brightest moments, he wasn't at his best. I think that can be applicable to this linebacker room as well, even if it's to a lesser extreme, because it wasn't a season-long build-up to like, hey, there's a flashing bright light around the idea that they are not showing up in these moments. It's a bang-bang play. But in back-to-back games, the bang-bang play didn't go Ohio State's way, and we have to acknowledge that. So I gave it a 9 because of that. Everything I do is on a weighted curve, so it's like, who'd you do it against? And the Texas game was great. First-time starting quarterback. Penn State game was great. Quarterback who's not even supposed to be their quarterback. Michigan game was great. True freshman quarterback. Playing in probably his most consequential game ever, if we're being real, even going back to high school. I don't know if the stakes have ever been higher than they were for Bryce Underwood in the Michigan game. Consequential games, and the veteran quarterbacks outplayed the Ohio State defense in the moments that mattered most. And with that being said, they gave up 13 and 17 points as a defense. So it's only a bit so far. Are the 2026 starters, whether that's the returning guys, and as I mentioned, the returning guys, as of right now, because I don't think the linebacker room has lost a single guy to the portal as the time where we're recording this right now. Peyton Pierce, Garrett Stover, Riley Pettijohn, TJ Alford, and Eli Lee. And then they're also going to add Sincere Johnson and CJ Santa from the recruiting class. Are the linebacker, is everybody who is going to make a meaningful impact at linebacker for Ohio State already on the roster?
I think yes, and I am okay with that. I think TJ Alford, Riley Pettijohn, Peyton Pierce is more than enough for Ohio State. They will be good. I think there is an element there are some kind of like flashy linebacker names in the portal, and I think as a result, a lot of people are like, go after him, instead of trusting, Peyton Pierce or Riley Pettijohn. I trust Riley Pettijohn and Peyton Pierce more than some of the options in the portal, even if they don't have a ton of experience. Also, at the time of recording, you talk about Ohio State not losing a linebacker to the portal. Kind of a linebacker. CJ Hicks just committed to South Florida, following Brian Hartline.
Wow. I wonder how many other guys are going to follow Brian Hartline to South Florida. I would be shocked if CJ Hicks is the only one. Gillis, is everybody on the roster already?
No, I think they're going to add a vet. Again, this is Monday, January 5th at 1:21 p.m. Maybe at 1:30 they add one. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. But I think they're going to add a vet. I think they love the youth that they have. I think they love the depth that they have. I think Peyton Pierce is going to be a starter no matter what. But it would not shock me if they have somebody come in to compete. And they will kind of throw that open to, hey, Riley, go win a job. And, I'm curious how that works. So I think no. Steven, you also forgot, just as a point of clarification, there's Braxton Rembert.
What is he? Like, what room is he in, though?
James Lord and I just recruited him, and he's going to play as an outside linebacker. So, yeah, that's an interesting one that I think is a good March 5th question, whatever the hell day that's going to be when we get the assistant coaches before spring ball. That's a good, hey, when Braxton Rembert, when they say go to your position meetings for film, where does he go?
Yeah.
We'll see. Now, he is the guy that I think they want to use as an Arvell type.
Sure.
So we'll see. But
all right. Well,
I think they're going to go get a vet.
Well, good luck to James Laurinaitis and Larry Johnson, who made the best man win for Braxton Rembert. And the same goes for, as people are listening to this today, Chaz Coleman is expected to be on Ohio State's campus in a battle that's become a battle between Ohio State, Tennessee, and LSU. And it's a battle about money. I don't think we have to be, we don't have to dance around that. It's how much does Ohio State want to invest? And are they willing to invest enough that brings the kid home? And if so, then I think Gillis, he probably fits the Braxton Rembert thing of he can do some Arvell Reese stuff where you can play him off the ball, but you can also play him off the edge. So that's another guy where it's all right, James and Larry, may the best man win. Whoever fights the hardest is going to get him in the position group. And if not, either way, he's going to be playing football for you. But we'll see what happens with Chaz Coleman. I think if it's the right guy, they'll get a guy. I don't think they have to go get a guy if they think that what they have in the room is pretty good. So it's I'll say no just for the sake of having to mark something down, but it's one of those situations where it's if they do, it's just there was a guy out there where it's okay, you might as well go at him, right? It's not going to hurt anything. Versus if they don't, it's okay, because Peyton Pierce and Riley Pettijohn and TJ Alford are ready to go. Biggest question, Gillis, for the position group heading into the offseason?
Yeah, I think it's a fairly simple one. Are Peyton Pierce and Riley Pettijohn ready to be starters? Are they going to be ready for Texas specifically? Let's say, even if you don't bring in a veteran, but let's say you do, all right, are those 2 or 3 guys going to be ready to carry the load? Because I think with what we saw from Ohio State this year, it was just please, for the love of God, let's get through the Texas game and then we'll figure it out from there. I think you might have something similar where it's you have a dry run in the first week of the year. You go to Texas, you throw everything you have at that game. You come back, you have a dry run where you play a MAC team and you just kind of play all right, let's catch our breath here. Let's get a win. Let's get back on track. Whether you're 2-1 after that or 3-0 after that, we'll see. So you need those 2 guys to be ready. Peyton and Riley. And not only do you need them to be ready, are they ready to handle 55 snaps? Because that is a game where I'm not sure you're saying, TJ Alford, good luck, or Garrett Stover, this is a game we're going to rotate heavy. I think if those are your 2 starting linebackers, you're going to figure that out pretty quick, and you're going to want to lean on those guys. So are they ready to go?
Stefan, biggest question.
For the sake of not repeating what Gillis said, because I do agree. Gillis, you know how Steve and I started doing the wearing our glasses when we talk about Caden McDonald? I think when we start talking about Peyton Pierce and playing against Texas, it might be time to bring out the cowboy hats next time.
Oh, I have one in the house, so we can definitely do that.
There we go.
Gillis, people can't see you, so you just putting on the hat and not saying anything.
Do you think I didn't know that?
You have to talk. You have to talk specifically. You have to talk in a Texas accent so people know you're wearing the hat.
I don't have like a piece of straw in my bedroom.
My name Peyton Pierce, and I'm here to sack your.
This town ain't big enough for the two of us.
One of us,
what he says to quarterback.
Both of us are going into this gap, and only one of us is coming out alive.
I'm also wearing a Jeff Gordon T-shirt right now, so this really really fits.
He had like a mullet situation going on too. So, Arch, you don't know Texas. I know Texas ball. You not built like that. All right. Yeah, y'all. Yeah, all that like real stuff. Sure. Like, are they ready to play Texas? Oh, who's gonna be the leader of the room because they had to block over the last 2 years? Like all that stuff's great.
All that real stuff. I made him put on a cowboy hat.
Yeah, I know. But like, but there are like serious things of like, I don't know. The Blocko has been in the linebacker room the last 2 years. It's probably not going to be this year. They've had a captain. I think for like every year that I can remember since Ryan Day has been the head coach, the linebacker room has had a captain. I don't know if that's going to be the case in 2026. I'm not saying it won't be. Who knows who grows and steps into a leadership role there? But I don't think that'll be the case just because the room is so young. All that stuff is important. And that's what the offseason is for, especially winter workouts. That stuff is great for that. All that stuff's fun. That's not the thing I want to know. I want to know if we all think Jermaine Matthews is coming back, right? Okay. I want to know, you know how like in the NFL you can pay people for their number? I want to know if Riley Pettijohn is willing to financially invest in getting back his number 7, which he wore in high school, because Jermaine is coming back. And so the number isn't just open for grabs. That's what I want to know.
Interesting. Maybe Jermaine takes Davison's number 1 and so on.
Yeah. I don't know, man. A linebacker wearing number 7 just seems special. I told you. This real.
We should do a mark it down soon for who we think is going to be the Block O. Because I think it's an interesting year. Like, we all knew it was going to be sunny.
Yeah.
I guess Cody, like, I remember when I joined the beat, I think some people were saying they thought Jack.
We all thought it was going to be Jack, and then we went to Big Ten Media Days, and everybody was like, nah, Cody's the best leader on the team. Where we were like, oh, all right then.
Yeah. So I think this would be a lot different than last. We all knew it was going to be sunny. This year, I think would be interesting because there's an obvious candidate in Brandon Innes and because he's a returning captain. Cyril, he can't, right? Or number 0.
Well, Thayer Munford had it in 21. They'll just wear a patch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he could.
Cyril too. Yeah, so that's a good one.
And then like on signing day before they played the game, like Thayer took pictures in a Blocko jersey before him. But yeah, if it's a offensive lineman, they'll just have a patch that says Blocko.
Ennis could do it.
Yeah. They haven't had a lot of players who weren't from Ohio do it. Like Cody Simon did it, Cam Babb did it. I think everybody else, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, because Jonathan Cooper, Thayer Munford, and Xavier Johnson were all from Ohio. And then Cam Babb and Cody Simon weren't. And then Sonny's obviously from Ohio. So I guess we'll see. I just want to know if Peyton Pierce, if Roddy Pettijohn wants to ask Jermaine if he can have number 7, because Jermaine wasn't supposed to be here in 2026, so he thought he was going to have it.
Is Sincere Otto getting number 8, or do you think he starts with like
number 20? Wore number 8 at Glenville, and
that's a thing at Glenville though, because Arvell wore number 8.
I was going to say number 8. I was literally just about to say number 8 at Glenville matters a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. They get weird about freshmen in single digit numbers. Because, like, Brandon Innes didn't have number 1 when he first got here. He had 11, which is funny because, like, JJ gets to break all the rules. I remember I was going back the Quinshon Judkins graphic from when he transferred to Ohio State the day of the national championship game popped up on my timeline, and it's like, oh, yeah, he did wear number 4 at Ole Miss. I wonder why he couldn't wear it. Oh, yeah. They gave it to the 18-year-old. And, Mylan Graham had number 5. But those are receivers. That's a little bit different. I don't know. I guess we'll see if he gets number 8 right away. But, yeah, that's what I want to know. Because there's real things, but we have time to talk about the real things. I just think Riley Pettijohn's going to be awesome. And I want him to look awesome while he is awesome. He wears both of those shoulder things. I think that's the new cowboy collar, wearing the shoulder straps. You just look like a badass with it.
I wish we could go back to cowboy collars.
You can wear them. They just choose to not.
I wish they would go in style. Like, you know what I think is a great aesthetic? When a player actually wears knee pads and when a dude has a cowboy collar.
You don't want them to protect themselves so much.
Electric.
Protecting yourself is not cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Wearing no pads in your bottoms and having your pants hiked up above your thighs, like your Quinshon Judkins. That's cool.
Yeah, who was the defensive lineman? I think he played for the Seahawks. He didn't wear shoulder pads. Literally, he
Nobody
had
does anymore.
punter pads
Yeah,
on.
nobody does.
I don't know. I forget his name.
They all wear the spiders now. They just don't wear anything. We're not far off from someone being like, why do I need a helmet? Let's go back to the leather cap.
That will not be happening.
6-1. Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, that's never happening. 614-350-3315. 2 week free trial, $3.99 after that. That's running back and linebacker. Two groups who decent years for one, really good year for the other, but both have some reasons to be excited about the future because of some young guys who are going to be hopping into some really important roles starting this offseason. Tomorrow, apparently, these two are really excited to talk about the wide receiver room, which was not expecting that at all, but we'll talk wide receivers and corners tomorrow, and we'll finish out a lot of the other position groups. Again, the portal is open until the 16th. We're texting stuff as it happens. 614-350-3315, 2 week free trial, $3.99. After that, for Stefan, Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis, I'm Stephen Means. Talk to you guys later.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose?
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.